should go and read. And it really poignantly said that this was not about cutting short. This is not about sports, and this was not about cutting short student opportunities. This was actually about protecting them, and I think that's really well said. But we've also, the fact that Penn State and Penn State Intercollegiate Athletics has a very strong set of values and long-standing. This is nothing new for Penn State. I think has really served us well. Many of the decisions that we've had to make and had to make quickly have been, the execution may not have been easy, but what we needed to do has been, because we've based it on our values and moved forward relatively quickly. As I've already said, the priority in every aspect of what we're doing and what we're focused on right now is the health and safety and wellness of, first and foremost, students, and then certainly our staff, our Intercollegiate Athletics 1 team, and then certainly our community as well. So we are focused in everything we are doing as a department on making sure that our students who are now learning remotely, being taught remotely, that they have all the conditions for success that they need, both academically as well as athletically, to the degree that we can in this remote situation. We're very pleased and supportive that the NCAA has extended the eligibility of our spring sport student athletes, and we are certainly going to support that throughout our spring sport portfolio. Obviously disappointed that our winter and spring sport seasons were cut short at various different points in time. Frankly disappointed that our fall sports, who were headed into a variety of different spring activities, that those were cut short, that all of our students don't have the opportunity right now to do what it is they love from an athletics pursuit standpoint. But certainly in that moment, a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, actually 3 weeks ago today, that obviously our student athletes were crushed. And whether you want to talk about athletics administration or coaches or throughout the university, or also including obviously our community, our alumni, our donors, our fans, our ticket holders, we're all heartbroken and continue to be for those lost opportunities. Our winter sports were poised to have an incredible postseason across the board. So many things. Those young men and young women gave us such a great winter, and we were poised to have a great postseason. And we'll hold on to the memories of those seasons and celebrate them in the right way. And obviously, we had a number of our spring sports who we had high hopes for. So we're one of the things that we're doing is looking at how, whether it's virtually or ultimately in person, how we celebrate and honor not only our seniors, who won't be back, some of whom won't be back with us, but all of our student athletes and all of our teams for what was, even in a shortened manner, was an incredible year. So with that, I'll let Chris take it over and take questions.
First one is from New Bias Wilborn. If I can get him actually unmuted. It's not seeming to want to work right now. From the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette.
WJCTV-IFB.
Hold that thought.
Oh, hello?
There you go, New Bias. So go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess a two-part question. One, have you guys set up a plan for football in particular to cover, if heaven forbid, there are any games, to cover the workers, and what have you done to kind of cover workers that have missed for spring games like volleyball and things of that nature?
Yeah, so our president, Dr. Barron, addressed that holistically for the entirety of the university, and that was that that all employees at the university, and there is a way to cover our wage payroll, which I think are the kinds of workers that you're talking about for our events, that they are guaranteed their pay through April 30th. So as a university, we've made that decision and are certainly helping all of our employees in that way.
Next question is from Corey Geiger, Altoona Mirror.
Hi, Sandy. Thanks for taking the time to do this.
Absolutely, Corey.
Sandy, what is your feeling right now on whether there will be a college football season? And if so, might it be pushed back to some degree or even shortened?
Yeah, so Corey, really, I mean, right now we don't have those answers in terms of when, and so what we're doing is we're spending our time, number one, on the things that we do know, things that we have certainty around, and then we are also looking at all the analytics, talking to all the experts that we have at our disposal to understand whatever the timing is. What are our time frames? What do we need for safe and healthy return to play for student athletes? Not in terms of exact dates, but in terms of time frames. How long do we need for our fall sports to come in and restore fitness, and then obviously health and safety to return to play? We also know that those decisions about what the point in time will be will obviously be guided by health and safety. We hope that that's sooner than later, but the work that we're doing will prepare us for whenever that date is, that we then know what kind of ramp up we need, how we might fit a football season, a volleyball season, or whatever season it is into a time frame. We're looking at no matter when that is, how we get those seasons in, and obviously from a revenue standpoint, football is. You've always heard me talk about that we're not a football school. We're an excellence school. That we embrace excellence across all 31 of our programs. But clearly, football drives the train from a financial standpoint, and so we're looking at whenever we get the all clear, how do we put the football season in?
Josh Moyer, Center Daily Times.
Hey, Sandy, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm very energized by all the challenges here. We engaged with over almost 400 of our ICA employees yesterday via Zoom. Obviously, learning a lot of technology. Also had an all student Zoom with them yesterday. Other than desperately needing a haircut, I'm doing great, Josh. How about yourself?
No haircut needed, thankfully.
Yeah, could have called that one.
But I do have a two-part question here, Sandy. You alluded to it earlier, but President Eric Barron announced last week that future furloughs and layoffs are not off the table for the athletic department, which can sometimes be insulated from those things. Does that also hold true? And will you be taking a similar approach to Iowa State by asking your coaches to take a temporary pay cut or taking a pay cut yourself to reduce payroll?
Yeah, so we've taken this in two buckets, if you will, and I talked about it before, kind of the known and the unknown. And we've spent the better part of the last couple of weeks making sure that we fully understood fiscal year 20. And what our shortfalls might be from a revenue standpoint. Some of those have been well documented from a conference level, and then also looking at our own, closer to home, both expense and revenue. So we feel like we've got a good handle on that, and thanks to some expense savings that we obviously will have from not recruiting, from not having events here in the spring, and the fact that we have over the course of the last 5 years built up our reserves so that we do have I wouldn't call it robust, but it's certainly an adequate reserve. We're going to be in good shape for fiscal year 20. So then you move into the unknown as it relates to 2021. And certainly we're doing all the analysis so that we're prepared. We're doing some scenario planning so that we're prepared. But at this point, we're in decent shape coming out of 20.
Rich Scarcella, Reading Eagle.
Hi, Sandy. I'm glad to hear that you're doing well.
Thanks, Rich.
You mentioned I touched on the financial ramifications, and I was just wondering, if the football season is not played this year, is there a possibility that a sport or sports would be dropped? Does that exist? And also, secondly, from a personal standpoint, would you be in favor, or would you be okay with playing football games in an empty stadium?
Yeah, so let me handle the first one first. And actually, it's a question I got from our student athletes last night. And obviously, that's in response to everybody kind of going to doomsday from whether or not we would have the opportunity from a revenue standpoint to access the revenues that come to us primarily from football, but we have several other sports at Penn State that obviously bring us some revenue, but not of that magnitude. And my answer was, a little bit how I've already answered some of these questions. Obviously, that's the unknown. But our 31 programs and 800 plus student athletes is really, it's in our DNA. It's part of who we are, and that is certainly not something that we're looking at right now. But we do continue to have a lot of unknowns around what the financial situation would be with some of these things, and so those are all things that we've we're looking at scenario planning and looking at what steps we might need to take. But I think that our primary focus is on holding our 31 programs or 800 plus student athletes together and finding a way as Penn Staters and as a Penn State community to come through this on the other side. And then, Rich, what was your second question? I'm sorry.
That's okay. Would you be in favor or opposed to playing football games in empty stadiums?
Yeah, obviously it's not the ideal. It's not what you want to do. But it also just depends on what our choices are. What are the scenarios that we're faced with? I'll go back to kind of one of our major principles, and that is we're not coming back to campus, whether it's students or whether it's student athletes. They're not coming back to campus until it's safe and healthy and prudent to do so. So I'm not sure whether a situation where it's not wise or prudent to have folks in the stands marries up with it's okay to have students back on campus.
Mike Gross, Lancaster Newspapers.
Hi, Sandy. I think your hair looks fabulous, by the way.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that.
Have you heard anything from NCAA or from Big Ten or anybody about, for example, if you extend eligibility, do you increase the rosters? Is football going to be able to, let's say, practice in July? There's lots of logistical things like that anybody could think of. Where are you at with that, and what have you heard about that?
Yeah, there are only about 10,000 of those, Mike, right? Most of our correspondence with the NCAA is through the Big Ten, and I'll put in a plug for our new commissioner, Kevin Warren, and his staff. They're doing a fabulous job of helping us navigate this. We convene as a Big Ten athletics directors group every morning, obviously on the phone, but they've been terrific, and so we're getting most of our NCAA information and NCAA guidance through the Big Ten. But your question was about the spring sport eligibility extension, and the NCAA Council. Again, those are members. Those are athletic directors and faculty reps and senior women's administrators and presidents. They made the decision to extend the spring sport eligibility for all those, and then they gave us the guidance around what we're supposed to do from a financial aid standpoint. So that's already been done. Obviously, should this continue, then we'll need to continue to make additional decisions about what to do with future seasons. I think we're all collectively doing about the same thing as it relates to scenario planning, and just making sure in a very uncertain environment. I mean, we stopped very quickly saying, okay, well, what if May 1? What if June 1? What if July 1? What if, whatever it is, and started looking at what's the runway we need, how much time, so that we know when it's safe and healthy to do so. We know we need 60 days. We know we need this time frame, and then we can look at how to fit in what it is we want to do into that time frame.
Greg Pickle, Penn Live.
Hi, Sandy. How you doing?
I'm good, Greg. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Coach Sanderson came out on social media, I believe it was yesterday, in favor of something that didn't happen, which is winter sports student athletes getting another year of eligibility as well. Do you plan to push the NCAA for that, or do you think that they made the decision on the spring sports and that's kind of that at this point?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, look, this is really, really hard for these young men and young women, and Coach Sanderson obviously was standing up for his guys and his sport. When the NCAA Council made the decision that they did actually, when they made the announcement on March 12th, I think it was either 12th or 13th, they said, we believe that spring sport student athletes fit the standard or already existing waiver requirement that we have, and we're going to look at the details of what that might be. And at the same time, they said, we will look at whether or not winter sports also fit that standard criteria. Ultimately, when they made their decision on Monday, they made a decision that winter sports did not, and that's certainly disappointing to the young men and young women in our winter sports. But we're at Penn State, we're always about students and always about opportunities. But I don't know that the NCAA or the NCAA Council will further examine that.
We are going to Ben Jones, statecollege.com.
Hey, Sandy, how's it going?
Good, Ben.
Penn State and State College are obviously different governing bodies, but there's sort of a relationship there in terms of what they provide for each other. If a football season doesn't happen, or even already, to what degree do you see State College as sort of a partner in getting through all of this? And if football doesn't happen, what do you think that you can kind of do together to get through all of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most important thing you just said is partnership. I mean, there's a symbiosis here between the university and the community in ways way beyond athletics. Certainly, athletics is a big part of it, and football is a big part of that. But it is truly a partnership. It's a partnership around close to 40,000 students who, when we're when we're fully populated, those students are a big part of this community. So that's just another reason why we're going to do absolutely everything we can to have a football season in some way, shape, or form, and that's we're going to do it and I know I sound like a broken record, but it's really, really important that it's clear where we're taking our advice from, which is from the experts and from a medical perspective. And when it's time to do so, when it's safe to do so, we're going to do it, and we're going to do it in a big way.
Nate Bauer, Blue 8 Illustrated.
Hey, Sandy, how are you?
I'm good, Nate. What, you've lost your tan? What's going on?
Never had one. Anyway. A couple of weeks ago, Patrick Chambers acknowledged that he's looking for a contract extension. I think he has 2 years left on his deal. Is that something that you can move forward with? Is that, do you have to put those things on hold, and maybe even beyond him? Are all of those situations something that you have to put on hold, and how does that affect their ability to recruit moving forward?
Yeah, we were Pat and his representatives. We were in that conversation before this happened. So we've continued that conversation, as well as a number of the other conversations that we were in the middle of. Now, certainly, some of the institutional wide positions and obviously, again, the unknown do limit us in some of the things we're going to do, but there's business that needs to continue as well.
Looking for Bill Bowman somewhere in here. Bill Bowman, CNHI, Pennsylvania. Bill?
Sorry about that. I had my own phone muted as well. How frustrating on sort of a micro level is it for you personally? I hear you harp on the words unknown and scenarios and things like that. I mean, and it's all sort of precursored on there's so many more unknowns that are outside of your control. Do you even have an idea of when you're going to be able to wrap your head around, when you start that runway that you talked about?
First of all, Bill, when you're dealing with athletic departments and coaches and athletics administrators, we're all used to exerting the maximum amount of control we possibly can, and obviously this situation has really turned that on its head. I'll tell you, I'm not frustrated at all, because we've focused on keeping our people together, keeping our people engaged. The first couple of weeks we had calls with our head coaches every day. We had calls with our management team every day. Our campus leadership, Eric Barron, Nick Jones, our provost, David Gray, our senior vice president, CFO, have been just fabulous. I serve on the university's task force, and we are laser focused on making sure our students have what they need, and that that was really heavy lifting from the beginning. At the beginning, I give all the credit in the world to our faculty and our students who turned on a dime and went to remote teaching and remote learning, and that it certainly didn't go off without any hitches, but went off without very, very few, and a lot of people working behind the scenes really hard to make that happen. So we've been going 12 hours a day I've never talked so much in my life, and you guys know I like to talk, so that's a big deal. But it's we've been focused on making sure those in our care are have what they need and are connected. Obviously, mental health is a huge challenge in our society today anyway. And as now everybody is, away from each other, we've paid special attention to making sure that we're in touch with everybody in our department. Our coaches have done a phenomenal job of staying in touch with their student athletes, with engaging them, and it's that's what we're focused on. And then obviously behind the scenes, We're doing a lot of the financial analysis. We're making sure that we're scenario planning, and that we're prepared for whatever gets thrown our way. I mean, I think that's our job as leaders, to make sure that that we're prepared to do the very, very best we can.
Marc Brennan, Lions 247, and well, maybe not. There we go. Mark.
Hey, do you have me?
I do.
We got you.
Appreciate it, Sandy. Hey, down in Dallas, you laid out a little bit of what the plan was for the Lash building master plan, and I think you said you hope to have some of the design stuff in place by late summer or early fall. Where is that standing at this point, and how sensitive are you going to have to be when you're trying to raise the sort of money that you're going to have to raise for this and other projects?
Yeah, so I think you all are probably all aware that the campus has pressed pause on all construction projects. But in the case of the Lash, the next couple of phases of the Lash renovations, we actually are in design there. So that work continues, and certainly when we get back on campus, and we'll take our direction from university leadership about construction. Certainly, we'll need to see where we are from a fundraising standpoint, but obviously we're committed to that, as well as several other projects that we're on the runway, getting close to getting going. And I do know this. That our alumni and donors and fans have been terrific. We continue, our Nittany Lion Club and our development folks continue to receive gifts and raise money through this very challenging time for everyone. So I'm very confident that although the times may be a little bit more challenging, that when the time is right, that we'll have the opportunity to move forward with these things.
Audrey Snyder, The Athletic.
Hey, Sandy, good afternoon.
Audrey, how you doing?
I'm good. I appreciate your time. You mentioned a few times that ramp up period, and obviously it's out of your control, but James had mentioned last week that you guys were starting to look at days, and you mentioned 60 days. I mean, is that the ideal number for a football season, that it would have to ideally 60 days before you could get going, or what maybe is a little more realistic?
Yeah, I think that 60 days. Now we've relied on our sports science folks, strength and conditioning, what we call our performance team, our head team physician, and to really look at this from a health and safety standpoint. And I think we believe, given the amount of time that training has been, it's not off. Our guys are still finding ways to train and keep their fitness levels up. But that for football, we think that 60-day window is right about right.
Peter Terpstra, WTAJ.
Peter. Yeah, well, my message to them, to all great Penn Staters, would be, number one, take care of your family, pay attention to them, use this time to your advantage in terms of that, because to be honest with you, I'm a worrier, and I worry about a lot of things, but what I'm most worried about are my 3 nieces and nephews who are on the front lines from a healthcare standpoint, and so that's. I'm focused on that, but I will say this to all great Penn Staters. We'll be back. This is not about sport. This is far bigger than sport, but sport absolutely will play a huge part in bringing all of our communities back together again when the time is right. And I certainly know that's true for Penn State and for the Penn State community and for the State College community. That we're gonna be back at some point. We're gonna be playing, and it's gonna be a way for our community to rally and come out of this on the right side.
Dave Jones, Penn Live.
Hi, Sandy, and thanks for doing this. Appreciate it.
That looks like a really comfy chair, Dave.
This is the way I work, yes. I had a good talk with your old friend, Len DeLuca, this morning. The NCAA and the, I'm
how
sorry?
is Len?
Talkative, as usual.
Well, yeah, that hasn't changed.
The NCAA and the Big Ten originally allowed the hypothetical of events without fans, as Rich touched on. And then I think that was quickly rethought. Len believes that both morally and legally, if football's not safe enough for fans, then it's not safe enough for the athletes or the sport to take place. Otherwise, universities could open themselves up to legal liability. Is that your view? And secondly, if it is deemed unsafe in the near term in the fall, is spring football, say February to May, because it goes within your fiscal year, is that a viable possibility?
Yeah. So Dave, I think it was my answer to Josh's question earlier about whether it would be feasible to play in empty stadiums. Certainly mechanically it would be, but again, I don't see intersecting health and safety, return to campuses by students, which would include student athletes. I don't see that mixing with the ability to play without fans. So I mechanically it would work. Does it realistically work given the health and safety issues? We're not going to bring students back to campus until it's safe. So, yeah. And then your second question was
spring football.
Yeah.
February to May.
Yeah. Again, I believe it's in everyone's best interest when it's safe and right to do so. That we play a football season. We've already talked about the emotional and the morale piece for communities across this country, and then certainly obviously there's a revenue and a financial piece to it. So if our return fits into a time frame that we have to do it in a non-traditional part of the year, I think we'll all look to try to make that happen.
Donnie Collins, Scranton Times-Tribune. Nope.
Donnie, where are you?
His kid was having a class. All right,
academics are the first priority. Yeah. Took up his bandwidth.
That's right. That's right. We will move on to Frank Bodani from the York Daily Record. Maybe not. Apparently, maybe not. How about we move to Dennis Dodd from CBS Sports for the moment?
Hi, Sandy.
Dennis, how you doing?
I'm good. Hunkered down like everybody else.
Yeah.
David Jones asked my question, but I had another one. If you could portray the need for you and your peers to play football to access that TV rights revenue money in a tasteful way, I get, you know what I'm talking about, just to make the budget whole.
Yeah, I mean, just what I just talked about. I mean, I think there are a number of reasons for that this community, that this country needs sport. Some of those are emotional. Some of those are from a connectivity and engagement standpoint. But obviously there are financial realities about that, and almost every football playing collegiate institution, the football program drives the train from a revenue standpoint. So obviously it plays an important part.
We will go to Neil Rudell. Neil is not on. So we will jump to Jonathan Bambuli from the Pittsburgh Tribune Review.
My colleagues have literally asked all the questions I had scribbled on this legal pad. I will pass. Thank you.
I love it. Then we will move to Tyler Donahue from Lions 24/7.
Hello, Sandy. Thank you for the insight this afternoon.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining.
This whole conversation is so surreal, but I think it's been normalized the last few weeks. But just 3 weeks ago, before March Madness was officially announced as done, when that happens, can you quantify just losing March Madness from the college athletic scene, from the coffers, and additionally on a local level, such a breakout season for Penn State basketball, going to finally get to that level and having it ripped away at the last second. Can you quantify all of that?
Yeah, I don't know if I can quantify it. I can certainly talk about it. It's I'm a huge basketball fan, born and raised on Tobacco Road, and it's we're seeing it. We're seeing what the hole is in our communities, in our society, without live sports. And I think that there's an appreciation that's being created, that maybe there's some opportunities for us down the road. But for Penn State in particular, because of the season that we were having in men's basketball, I happened to be, I had flown to Indianapolis on that Thursday morning. And because we were supposed to play that night, I'd not gone with the team on Wednesday because we were helping to manage through the university's initial announcement about going remotely. So I flew first thing Thursday morning, got to Indianapolis, took a cab to the arena where the guys were doing the shoot around. And literally on the bus back to the hotel, I get a text from the Big Ten that we're having a conference call like in 5 minutes or something, and so I took that, and that was to discuss the decision to shut down the Big Ten tournament. We also have we had Jim Phillips was a member of the committee, the men's basketball committee, obviously the athletic director at Northwestern, and he gave us a little bit of insight into to the upcoming discussions with the NCAA, and I think we all kind of knew where this was headed, and that was crushing. It really was. I got off the phone and went downstairs to where the men's team was having their lunch or pregame meal. I'm not sure what it was, and Pat had just found out from Lynn Holleran and was telling the team, and that's again, we've all of us that have been around this for a long time have been through a lot of different stuff, but that's really heartbreaking. I'll tell you what though, Lamar Stevens, we had a couple of student athletes on our all staff Zoom yesterday. He came in to give a few minutes with our staff, and he was incredible. He was absolutely incredible. Just really talking about his Penn State experience, and it didn't end the way he wanted it to, but that he wasn't going to let that take anything away from what he and his teammates had accomplished, and how he felt about Penn State and Penn Staters and our community and the incredible support that they had received. So this is hard for all of us. I know it's hard for our coaches. It's whether you had your season ended right before an NCAA championship, or you were coming down the line on a winter sport, or you were just getting ready to go into Big Ten play in a spring sport. It's devastating, but it's not. We're not going to let it take anything away from the accomplishments that our teams either were about to accomplish or already had, or whatever the hopes and dreams were for spring sports. So it's something we can build on. It's certainly something that I know all of us are. It's making us better. It's challenging us, and I know for our students that 10 years from now, as heartbreaking as this is, and that heartbreak will never go away. But down the line, 10, 15, 20 years from now, this will make them better husbands and wives and fathers and mothers and citizens of the world, just like all of our challenges and setbacks do.
Got time for a couple more. We'll go with Neil Rudell, Altoona Mirror.
I was on listen only, but if you want a question, I'll ask one.
Feel free.
I don't know, Neil, if I do or I don't.
If this came up, I apologize. Have you guys, what's the process with season football tickets? Are all of the payments already in? And what is that process? How's that taking shape?
Yeah, so that's part of all the different scenarios that we're looking at. Yes, the deadline for retaining your season tickets and making your payment and your required donation is in. I think our renewal rate was somewhere around 94%, and we're again looking at scenarios and then how we might respond to each and every one of those, so that when we're ready to go or we know more, we'll way to approach that.
And last one, we'll go to CBS 21.
Hi, Sandy, how are you?
Doing great. What you in a van?
Yeah, I'm out in the field in the live truck. That's my new office for now.
Are you sitting outside my front door?
No,
No, okay.
I'm out on City Island. First off,
Right.
thank you for the praise as a firefighter. Thank you very much for your thoughts. And secondly, have you reached out? Have you reached out to any of the students? Have they reached out to you? Like, how are they doing not being able to be on campus, be playing the sport that they love so much?
Yeah, I've talked to a few of them. We did do the Zoom last night, and I've also been in touch with again, we're talking to our head coaches now 3 times a week. It was 5 Monday through Friday originally. I'm talking to our student development folks all the time and getting kind of a pulse on how things are going. You know what? Like Lamar yesterday, I mean, he admitted there was, there were a few days there when he was down in the dumps, and I think we can all completely understand that. I've told a couple of our coaches, I spent 8 years as an assistant coach, and I was never more depressed or kind of down in the dumps than when the season was over. The day, the days or the week right after the season was over. Sometimes you knew the end was coming. Sometimes you lost out in the NCAA tournament earlier than you thought you were gonna, and then that hits you. So it's certainly understandable that Lamar was down in the dumps for a little bit, but he's clearly bounced back, looking towards his future, being very grateful about his Penn State opportunity and his Penn State experience. And for the most part, that's what we're finding. Student athletes in general, and certainly Penn State student athletes, I think, are a really high character, resilient bunch. They're finding a way to get through this. They're taking on the challenges of remote learning. They might be in a house that their mother or father or somebody else in the house is working and taking up the bandwidth, which is challenging them from a distance learning standpoint. But we're trying to help them with that as well. And I know that there's some cable companies across the country that are providing free internet access for students, and I think those things are just awesome about what our country's doing. But certainly, our students are, they have individual challenges that we're trying to help them with. We've got a great support team for them. I'm really, really proud of the work that our team is doing, meaning our athletic department, and really pulling together, taking on the challenges of doing everything by Zoom or by phone. In general, folks have told me that it's kind of a 50% premium. I know our academic advisors are saying something that would take a half an hour is now taking 45 minutes, or something that would take an hour is now taking an hour and a half. But back to your question about our students, I think in general, they're anxious to get back. But they're they're putting their heads down and taking. We had Destiny Weber from our softball team also on this Zoom yesterday, and she said, hey, I miss my teammates and I miss my sport, but without the practice time, I can hit the books a little bit harder. So the little silver lining perspective right there.
All right, that's all the time we have for Sandy today. Sandy, thanks for your time, and appreciate everybody else getting on and hopping on, and appreciate you all joining us. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everybody. Stay safe.
The WJACTV IFB line. This message will repeat until the news returns. Again, you are connected to the WJACTV IFB line.
You too, Sandy
This
Barbour.
message will repeat until all commercials are over and the news comes back on. This is the WJACTV IFB line.